Opening slide, graphic, text, Introduction to Self-Management Part 1. Where to Start with Deb Rouget and Teresa Micallef. Logos, Belonging Matters, NDIS, talksthatmatter.net.
Where do we start? Teresa's going to talk to you a little bit about where to start with self-management. So can I hand over to you, Teresa?
Sure, Deb, thank you. So the whole point to self-management in many ways is actually about taking autonomy and ownership of your life or your son and daughter's or a family member's life. It's very much about that. It's about giving you the most, control really and choice over how you create and dream a life. And what we would encourage you to do to begin is to have a vision, to really have a very clear vision about the kind of life that you're trying to create. Because what a vision does, what spending time really thinking about that does, is it helps you to anchor everything that goes from that place onwards. It helps you anchor your planning. It helps you anchor all the decisions that you're going to make into the future. And it helps you make decisions about how or why you do certain things the way that you do. So start with the person. You want to start with that individual, whoever they are. They may be your son, your daughter, a peer, a colleague. They could be your sibling. So start with that individual and be with them. Find out who they are and work from there. We also encourage you to really dream big, to create a big picture and imagine, not to limit the dreaming or the imagining process. It's such a vital part of the process. It's very energizing. People can get very excited about things. And it also can be a platform where new ideas are birthed and people can make decisions about the type of life they're trying to create. All of this helps to build a strong vision for a good life. And you can see Matt here working around the table there using pens, paper, colour, imagery to try to help him to elicit what it is that he wants, what he's imagining for his life, for himself, for his future. So you want to focus on what the ideal of what a full and meaningful life actually looks like. A life of inclusion, embedded in community. We often call this the good life. And again, encouraging you to not put limits on what that could be. To help people really kind of give wings to their hopes and their dreams for their future and allow their voice to be heard, allow their ideas to be expressed. And vision is all about that. Vision is an aspiration. It's something that you're moving towards. It's what holds you on your path and keeps you steady towards that ultimate vision. Whether you achieve that final glory or not is, in a way, that's not the point. The point is the vision will lead you towards where you're headed, and you may achieve, it fully, or you may achieve a portion of that. But the vision is what will carry you through. We also encourage you to use typical life pathways and opportunities as a guide to your visioning. So that if the person where you're working with is a young school leaver, you would, for example, look at what is typical for young school leavers to be looking at and creating in their own lives. Things like having lots of friendships, spending time out of the home with those friends, perhaps having a casual or part-time job, starting to look at career options, TAFE, study, university, these types of things, maybe even special relationships. All of this stuff, what's typical for that age group of person in life, and start there as a guide. That'll really help you stay on track and not get caught or swayed. Sometimes it's very easy to get swayed into the idea that if we're talking about a person with a disability, there's a specific or special type of arrangement to meet that particular need. And we're encouraging you to go beyond that and to really dream a life in community and a typical life with typical life opportunities. The other important thing with a vision is that I would recommend is to try to summarize it in a succinct form as well. So you may have lots of tools and ways to dream. You may use vision boards, you may do planning like you can see in that picture there, but in the end, or at some point, get a very succinct paragraph that states your vision so that it's very clear to you what that is and how it anchors your planning and implementation. Thanks, Deb. Next slide. So the other thing I want to encourage you to do is think about all the life areas in a person's life, and they're all listed there. There's a whole range of things to be thinking about: employment and career, study, learning new skills, recreation and leisure, the idea of relationships and how they're formed, how you intentionally create them, what type of a home you would like or this person would like, even if they're quite young. The idea of talking about planning for a future begins from the very, very early days of a child's life. So talking about those things, talking about home, talking about jobs, talking about things like spirituality or meaning, identifying what that is for this particular person. And it'll be different for everybody. Things like civic contribution, thinking about how you participate in community. What are you giving back to your own community through things like volunteering perhaps, or voting, those kinds of things. Obviously thinking about and incorporating health and well-being into a vision for a good life into the future, a healthy and strong, person into the future. And also then thinking about safeguards for the future. And we talk about this a little bit, thinking about what the future, how do I safeguard this vision, and how do I safeguard the life that we've created into the future, perhaps even beyond the life of the parents who may have been instrumental in setting that up. Thanks, Deb. Next slide. So another thing to think about, and I mentioned it in the first slide, was focusing on the person. And when you're focusing on that individual, you want to harness their strengths. You want to harness their interests. That's the absolute focus. Who are they? Find out who they are. Talk to them, talk to peers, friends, that kind of thing, and really get a lot of this down on paper. Figure out what their interests are, their hobbies, what brings them joy in life. And there's this gorgeous photo of a Formula One car here, and that's one gentleman's passion, absolute passion in life. And he ended up creating a range of opportunities based on that one passion for himself in his life. Think about what are the person's natural abilities, what are they good at? Think about gifts, things that are like a notable talent or ability or flair, things that come naturally to a person. Another clue to look at in someone's life is to think about or get a sense of who are the people they're attracted to. So if someone's attracted to movie stars, perhaps, or they're attracted to sporting heroes, there are real clues in there about the type of life that they are aspiring to, whether they're verbalizing that or not. If they're attracted to a certain type of person or people, group of people, there's real clues there. So following people's expressions of interest in life, who are they attracted to? Think about the use of energy. So that means, how does someone prioritize what's important to them in their life? What motivates them? What gets them out of bed in the morning? What brings them satisfaction or contentment? All of these are very important clues, again, to what would be really important for this person in the creation of a vision of a life for them. And you want to incorporate these pieces into that vision. All of this leads you into the big question for all of us in life. What is my purpose in life? What is that person's purpose? Why are they here? What have they been called forth to do? What is it? For some, it's being a passionate musician, or being a dancer, or writing a book, or being a good friend. What is it for this person? What brings their life purpose? Very, very big one. And if you can get a sense of that in a vision, then you're well on the path to helping someone, live the life that they came to live. And then you want to talk about and have a sense of their dislikes, what people like to avoid, what they detest, what they're bored, what creates problem or trauma or trouble for them, so that you know what to do with that. You know how to deal with it, you know how to avoid it if that's necessary, or you know how to plan around it if you need to do that to incorporate a good life for them. Thanks, Deb. Next slide.
Okay, so thanks very much, Teresa. I think one of the key things to hold on to is that it's self-management on its own is not enough. That we want to self-manage people's resources so that they can have a good life. And sometimes that, for some people, is hard to figure out. So people have got quite complex communication needs and those types of things. But I've been amazed over the many years that I've supported people with intellectual disability is that you can see people's face light up. You can see when they do a certain thing. You can see people concentrate on things more when they're around certain people or when they're doing certain things. So we did see the picture of Matt there. Matt has very limited communication, so we had to get very, very creative around creating his vision. The other thing is, this is where the importance of people who know Matt really well, so his family, his brothers and sisters, and his parents, his support workers, those types of things. And sometimes people can be useful who are the same age because they might know what someone the same age is doing in the community. So this is really important to start with that and try just to do that in a way too that makes sense for you. Sometimes we can get trapped into the NDIS process way and it can create roadblocks for us. Just try and create some space to get out of that, to hold something that way you can really think around what a good life is. All right, so we're going to talk now about what is self-management. Okay, so there are 3 ways to manage your NDIS funds. 1, you can self-manage. 2, you can plan manage, and 3, you can have the NDIA manage your NDIS funds. Now you can choose one of those options or you can choose a combination of those options. So what we've seen for some people who self-managed previously, so when their funding was through the state government, so individualised support packages, was that most people, and Jane was one of these around her daughter, opted straight to self-manage. Now, if you're new to self-manage, you might want to test the water a little bit. So talk to your planner about self-managing a small portion of that so you can get used to it and you don't feel overwhelmed with that. All right, so let's have a little bit more of a detailed look. Some of you at these different options. Some of you might know all this already, but we do have some newcomers that have joined us. So NDIA managed funds is where the NDIA manages and pays your providers on your behalf. You cannot pay more than the NDIA set price limit. So there's a price guide, and that has limits for certain things or items that you can purchase. You can only use providers that have registered with the NDIA, and those providers meet strict government quality and safety requirements. And now, not everybody is a registered provider. For example, if you wanted someone to perhaps, give your son or daughter some good coaching around perhaps playing a particular sport so they could join the club, the local person that might provide that, like a sports type of person, may not be registered with the NDIA, or a small provider of OT or these types of things. They may not be actually registered. It doesn't mean that they're not, a good provider, but with the NDIA managed, you can only use registered providers. Now, for example, Belonging Matters is not a registered provider. One of the reasons we chose not to do that, because there is work involved in that, and we wanted to remain fairly autonomous as well. You will require a service booking to show the type of support to be provided, the length of time, and set aside funding to pay for that support and service. So there's a bit of pre-thinking and booking involved with NDIA managed funds. There's plan managed. So this is when you engage what's called a plan manager, and the NDIA will actually pay your plan manager. Now, if you don't know where to find them, you could probably Google, or I think the NDIA have a list of plan managers as well that you can contact on their website. The plan manager will pay your providers for you, but you can still select your preferred providers. The plan manager must be registered with the NDIS, and a service booking is required. Your plan manager cannot pay more than their NDIA set price limit for specific supports. So a few restrictions there, but not as many as the NDIA managed. And self-managed. So this is when you manage your NDIS funds and you take responsibility for using and directing your NDIS funds. And you can negotiate what you pay for support. So that's a really good feature of this, although we do suggest that, if you're employing support workers, you may use a provider to employ the workers, but if you're paying them yourself, that you do align with the award rates, and you don't negotiate too low for support worker wages and those sorts of things. You don't need to have a service booking, and you can use registered and unregistered providers, so that gives you a lot more flexibility. We do suggest, if you do use an unregistered provider, that you check their qualifications, training, and safety checks and those types of things. Okay, so why then, the next section is, why would you choose to self-manage? So what we're going to do next is to have a look at a video. So just bear with me while I get this video going, and the video is about Morgan, and her family self-manage her supports to help her really get a good life that is full of meaning and purpose for her. And while you're watching the video, you might want to just jot down, because we'll have a bit of a poll coming up around what you think the benefits might be of self-managing Morgan's supports.
Text. Workforce Innovation, Self-Managed Supports. Text. Title. Design the Life You Love. Morgan, Webb Little, with horse in the background. Ralphie. Morgan.
I don't have support workers. I have my people with special skills who assist me, who help me to do the things I want to do. They don't need any qualifications in disability. They are people who have the skills to assist me in my life.
Montage of Ralphie being unloaded, saddled and prepared for riding by Morgan and her support workers Eliza and Emily. Morgan mounts Ralphie with assistance from Eliza, Emily and her coach Charlotta.
You ready? Pull over. Okay, good.
Montage of Morgan being assisted in her home by Charlie, support worker.
Can I take the lid off the milk while you're waiting?
Yeah.
Morgan.
Writing is very important to me. I feel like I was born to do it. It is my life.
Charlotta Pedersen with footage of Morgan riding equestrian.
As Morgan's coach, I help her with her equestrian ability, especially riding, horse management, and we also do theory. Morgan and I had travelled to America twice, been to Las Vegas and Del Mar in California. That was very exciting. I was very nervous because she had to get on other horses again, so that was a bit nerve-wracking, but she was the pro at it. She wasn't worried at all.
Meryl Little, Morgan's mum.
When we employ support workers, what we really look for is fit. So it's people that Morgan likes, people that we like, because they spend a lot of time with Morgan and with our family. And then we look for values. We look for people who have that innate understanding of a human rights approach to inclusion of people with disabilities.
Charlie.
I haven't supported people with disabilities before. My work history is working with young people and helping them contribute to community and feel included and accepted. I don't think you need a qualification to work in disability. I think your personality type, life experience, and the values you hold about wanting people to be included is much more important.
Eliza, support worker.
So previously my work experience was primarily in the horse industry as a rider, as a coach and as a groom, but I've never had any experience as a support worker.
Meryl.
Morgan has loved horses since she was little. She's ridden since she was 8. As she got older, she moved into high performance equestrian and started training at Hill Cottage dressage. Her coach there, Charlotta Pedersen, has developed an extraordinary relationship with her, and Morgan's doing very well under her tutelage.
Footage of Morgan riding equestrian being coached by Charlotta.
And centre line. You'll be right. On the centre line, get on it. Good girl. Yes, very good. Keep walking straight and straight and straight and straight. And hold the legs. Oh, very nice. Give him a good pat. Good girl. That was good.
Charlotta.
As an equestrian, I would describe Morgan a little feisty sometimes. We can have our moments together in a lesson. But she really loves riding, and she loves the horses, being around horses, plus the competition. She really does love that. Morgan's relationship with her support team is excellent, I think. She really enjoys the girls because they're the same age as her, and they all share the common interest about horses. My connection with the support workers are they come down here, help Morgan get ready for her riding lesson by saddling up the horse and keeping her safe, and then helping with the lessons. So we all are on the same team.
Meryl.
We find most of Morgan's support workers through personal connections in the equestrian industry. We also sometimes advertise through Facebook. Morgan has a para-equestrian Facebook page, and we use that so that people know exactly what they're getting into if they want to work with Morgan.
Emily, support worker.
I learnt about the role with Morgan when I bumped into Morgan and Morel at the cafe in Gisborne. They were looking for somebody else to work with Morgan, and as Morgan and I had already met previously at a horse competition, I felt that that role would be a perfect fit for me.
Charlie.
The hiring process for the position was I responded to the Facebook ad, then sent through my resume, came in for an interview, met with Morgan, and she decided she was happy to give me a go.
Morgan.
My people are all smart and happy and lovely. My people need to help me with everything all day, really. From helping me get up and ready in the morning and preparing meals, to assisting me with my horses or planning a speech or presentation and going to bed at night. They have to be able to do everything.
Emily.
Now that Morgan is living independently, our way of training support workers is slightly different. They usually come in and shadow a shift or two with somebody that is already working with Morgan. That way they can see how everything works and can understand their role.
Charlie.
So my role is to support Morgan in and around the house. I'm not into the horse side of things, so we work on integrating into the community, finding social avenues for Morgan and following up her recreational activities that she's interested in. So it might be swimming and music, and dancing is something she really loves as well.
Meryl.
We chose to self-direct because the traditional models of disability support just didn't work for Morgan. She had an independent and interesting life and she wanted to be able to continue doing that.
Emily.
I like working in a self-directed arrangement because it's personal, it doesn't feel clinical, it feels very natural. It's also very flexible, which suits my lifestyle.
Eliza.
I like working for a self-directed arrangement because it cuts out the middleman, you don't have to deal with the agencies, and you get to know the person on a more personal level.
Charlie.
So one of the things I really like about working for Morgan is that she's really interested in my life and wants to get involved in the things I like as well, so we can spend time doing things that we both want to do, which is a really lovely bonus when you're at work.
Meryl.
Self-direction is a big commitment, but it gives you total flexibility about how you live your life and you get to design the life you want.
Photo montage of Morgan with Ralphie, her support workers and her riding team. Text. This project was undertaken as part of the Innovative Workforce Fund. The fund was managed by National Disability Services, with financial assistance from the Australian Government Department of Social Services. Text. This film was produced by Belonging Matters and In Any Weather Productions in conjunction with JFA Purple Orange. For further information, contact JFA Purple Orange. Email admin@purpleorange.org.au. Phone 08 8373 8333. Text. We would like to thank Morgan Webb-Liddell, Meryl Liddell, Charlotta Pedersen, Hill Cottage Dressage, Emily O'Connell, Eliza Scott, Phoebe Coallen, Lucy Swage Makers, Charlotta Bracey.
Okay, so I just wanted to just point out some of the benefits of self-management for Morgan. As we saw, it was very individualised. Morgan's support arrangement is completely tailored to her. It's not tailored to anybody else. It's tailored to her and her passion for horses. And also she lives in her own place with personally tailored support. Now, as you can see, Morgan has quite complex needs. She can weight bear, but she can't walk. She needs to use a communication device and these types of things. So she really needs support all of the time. We saw, really it was obvious, wasn't it, that it was based on her interests, passions and strengths. And she's travelled overseas as well, and what a great opportunity for a young woman. Lots of flexibility, so supports were arranged at the time that Morgan needed them. Lots of creativity. She chose her support workers, these types of things. It was definitely inclusive. So this was just an ordinary community-based equestrian centre. It wasn't riding for the disabled. So, and here's Morgan being part of a community club and group, and really a movement of people who are interested in horses. As Morel said, there was much more control over the supports. She was able to match and employ and choose her own staff. So this is really interesting because not everybody can manage horses rather. Not everyone can manage workers. Not everyone can manage horses. And so Morgan and Morel really chose young women who were equestrians or horse riders and had good strengths around horses, because you wouldn't want me, for example, managing a horse. I think I would be a disaster at that. So that's a really interesting feature of this arrangement. The other thing is that you don't have to employ your workers. You could get someone to employ them for you, and we'll talk more about that in our session next week. That they could select any preferred provider that they wanted. There was more value for money, and they could negotiate the price that was paid for support.
Closing slide, graphic, text. This video was made possible with the support of the National Disability Agency grant, produced by Belonging Matters. Belonging Matters makes every effort to provide accurate and up-to-date material. However, information is subject to change and our material is for reference only. We recommend speaking to the NDIS, your LAC or planner for up-to-date or additional information. Logos, NDIS, Belonging Matters, talksthatmatter.net.